Today's draft, stars that the Patriots let leave town. Stars that the Patriots let leave town. Obviously, this is in reference to hashtag Tommy possibly leaving town. Here is the question, Christopher. The Patriots currently have two players under contract with cap hits above $10 million for this year. One is Stephon Gilmore at $18.6 million. Who is the other Patriot who is under contract with a cap hit above $10 million?
Oh, my gosh. Who is the cap hit above $10 million on the Patriots? Who am I missing here? Okay, I'm going to say Dante Hightower.
Boom.
Man, I'm good. Woo! What up? What up,
And
Dante Hightower? I mean,
you get the first pick.
It's not a long list with the Patriots of guys like that, right? You gotta I just got lucky and finally got to his name there. But all right, so whatever the hell the title of this draft is, star players the Patriots let leave town. Okay, I think the one they let leave town here not too long ago, Chandler Jones, is going to be my first pick. Because as cutthroat as the New England Patriots have been over the years and been willing to make really tough decisions and not be emotionally attached to some of their star players who have helped them out, Chandler Jones is really one of the few that was in the prime of his career and just budding into a superstar. I mean, he obviously was the best pass rusher on the Patriots when he was there. Now, had a little issue in the offseason that one year. I don't know. He went to the police department, right, because they thought he might have taken synthetic marijuana. That was the story out there, whatever it may be. And that seemed to be where the relationship went wrong. But, man, Chandler Jones, no question about it, has been one of the best pass rushers in football the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, he's been phenomenal. He's had years of 17 sacks, and, of course, this year he had 19 sacks. So I think that, to me, is the one that jumps out more than the rest.
You know, they get to the point where they decide that they know a guy is going to be in heavy demand in free agency, so they trade him ahead of time. Instead of letting him leave and taking the compensatory draft pick, they trade him away and get more now. That we see them do that all the time with guys, and they did that with Chandler Jones, and that's the biggest example of a guy that maybe they'd like to have, but they would have been in a position where they had to pay him a lot more than maybe they value those positions. All right, well, this one for me is a guy who ultimately has been the subject of 3 first-round picks in the National Football League. He was a first-round pick of the Saints in 2013. He was traded to the Patriots for a first-round pick, and the Patriots then traded him for a first-round pick to the LA Rams, and that's receiver Brandon Cooks. And, you know, he never really became the guy they thought he was going to be in New England. Is he going to be the next slot receiver stand out there? Is he going to be on the outside? Is he going to be on the, it didn't work.
Right.
And they were able to flip him for a first-round pick. And so it was a win-win. And, you know, he got a great contract with the Rams right out of the gates, sight unseen. And now he's the subject of trade talks again. Not significant, not high-end, not anything that feels imminent, but there is a thought that as the Rams try to manage their salary cap, this may be a guy they have to flip. I'd be shocked if he gets another first-round pick in compensation. But, hey, if Mohamed Sanu is worth a 2, maybe Brandon Cooks is worth a 1. But I got Brandon Cooks as my first-round pick for guys as a first-round pick and who was traded for 2 other first-round picks. My first-round pick is a former star who the Patriots let leave.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I forgot about him, really. But you're right. I mean, it's kind of interesting, that whole story of how they acquired him. You're right, getting rid of him, doing that. You know, had a good little short stint there in New England. But, you know, Brandon Cook's interesting here going forward, too, with him, those rumors being out there, got the concussion issues. We'll see where that all goes. All right, my next one, I'm going with Wes Welker. You know, you went receiver. I'm going Wes Welker. I mean, you know, that was a huge move at the time, right? I mean, Wes Welker, I think we all saw, had, you know, such an important role on that new age New England offense that went from, you know, hey, the Corey Dillon and we're going to run the ball and then Brady will just make some clutch throws at the end of the game, to all of a sudden, hey, these rules on defenses have changed about touching the receivers, and it became, wow, New England throws the ball every play and they abuse you over the middle with Wes Welker. And I think letting him leave town And, when he left New England, you could say he was the best receiver in the history of the New England Patriots and certainly had a special combination with Tom Brady. But he leaves town and goes to another great offense with Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. And, of course, strings together a few good years there as well, but nothing like he did in New England. But that was pretty big news when Wes Welker was replaced by Julian Edelman and they let him leave town.
Well, and the other reason why that was a big deal, Chris, because he wasn't traded. He's a guy who became a free agent.
Yeah.
And remember all that angst, all that acrimony with the negotiations with the Patriots, and they thought they were going to be able to keep him, and he left for the Broncos, and there were some hard feelings there. And you're right. He never was the same guy. He dropped from 1,354 receiving yards in New England in 2012 down to 778 the first year he was with the Broncos, and that was the best year he ever had there. He was only there 2 seasons. We feel like he was with the Broncos a long time. He was there 2 years and had fewer yards in 2 years than he had his last year with the Patriots. But that was a big deal because he's that one guy that they didn't control him. They wanted him, and he said, see you later.
Yeah, no, you're right. That was a big deal. I was there, in New England a little bit when he was asking for some of the new money and wanted a new contract, and I think felt a little disrespected that way. And of course, as I've always said, the prevailing notion with Wes Welker in the New England building was that he played better when he was pissed off. So they made sure he was pissed off a lot.
Well, one guy who was definitely pissed off when he was abruptly traded from the Patriots to the Raiders was Richard Seymour.
Oh, good one.
And I remember there was a period of time where Richard Seymour maybe wasn't even going to show up.
Yeah.
And I remember doing the research on what are the rules if he never shows up? Is the trade voided? What rights do the Raiders have? And, he went on to play 4 seasons with the Raiders, made the Pro Bowl twice. He went from 2006 to 2010 without a Pro Bowl appearance. In his second year with the Raiders, he was a Pro Bowler, same thing as the third year. So he did well with the Raiders. Obviously, they didn't make it to the playoffs, so he didn't have that same ultimate success that he enjoyed in New England. But Seymour, and that was really the stunner. That was the first big name from that team that won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years that got thrown overboard by Bill Belichick, underscoring the reality that he's willing to rip the name off the back of the jersey and make the best decision for the football team, no matter how important that guy had been in the past.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was a shocker, and Richard Seymour was such a staple of the success of the Patriots in their first 3 Super Bowl wins. Richard Seymour, is like, he's one of those guys I look at right now to go, he's a Hall of Fame football player. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. The stats are never going to tell the story about Richard Seymour. It's not about that. It's the fact that he was a mountain of a man. He was immovable, and he could dominate in the run game. He could push the pocket in the pass game. He was one of the best defensive players I ever played against. So, yes, I think, that was a good pick by you. It really was. He was on my list. He was probably going to go next for me. All right, the next one, I'm going back to receiver. I'm going to go with Deion Branch here. I mean, hey, the fact that the Patriots, I want to make sure they traded him to the Seahawks, right? Am I right about that? Yeah. Okay, good.
There was a very contentious contractual dispute back in. Yeah, and they were like, screw it. We're not giving him. And they finally traded him.
Traded him to the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, 2 years after he had won or maybe just a year. No, it was 2 years after he had won the MVP of the Super Bowl in that Eagles-Patriots Super Bowl showdown. He goes to the Seattle Seahawks and, of course, goes to a Super Bowl there as the number 1 target for Matt Hasselbeck and Mike Holmgren in that offense. But, that's just another example of the Patriots just not blinking and never letting one player hold their team and organization hostage. And it's the reason, and a big reason, and I just don't think a lot of organizations and coaches have the guts to do it, but it's the reason they've dominated for 20 years, because they can just chop off that emotional attachment part of their body or lives or whatever it is, and they can do what's ever best for the football team, and that's allowed them to stay at the top of the mountain for a long time.
And that's particularly appropriate as they close in on whatever decision they're going to make about Tom Brady. We talk so much about what does Tom want, but what does Bill Belichick want? That is a big part of this as well. All right, I am really going to make you mad with my last pick, right? Because, look, we haven't applied any time constraints on this.
Here we go.
What?
I don't know. I don't know where you're going with this.
Well, a guy that you included in the draft not that long ago when we did a draft of guys who should have made a draft day power play, Jim Plunkett, former Patriot, won 2 Super Bowls with the Raiders. Great play. Far better elsewhere than he was with the Patriots. And just a reminder for anyone out there that just assumes the Patriots have been this powerhouse forever. I remember back in the 70s, they were not a good organization. They were not really a good organization until the Krafts bought the team in 1994. They were always, now they had been to 1 Super Bowl when they upset the 85 Dolphins and prevented us from having a rematch of the Bears and the Dolphins in Super Bowl 20. But they really hadn't done much, and they'd always been just kind of there. And Jim Plunkett, the first overall pick in 1971, and he did his time, and he moved on to the 49ers for a couple years, and then it all fell together for him with the Raiders, and he won a couple of Super Bowls. So Jim Plunkett.
That's against the spirit of the draft. It's against the spirit of the draft.
You know
we're talking about this draft as it pertains to Bill Belichick and what's going on with Tom Brady and Belichick's willingness to let his players walk out the door, get rid of them, maybe before they're done. You're a jerk. You're such a lawyer. Fine print, snarky comment, paste.
There's no fine print.
Yeah.
There's no fine print. It was a very broad category. And in fact, I specifically, when introducing the draft, said stars who left New England, not star players, because I had Pete Carroll in my back pocket.
Yeah, of course you did. Yes, of course you did. Very well played.
He was the last coach of the Patriots before Bill Belichick.
Well,
and he won a Super Bowl elsewhere.
Okay, well, just for funsies here, I mean, what are some other ones? We had Lawyer Malloy. We missed out on that, right? That was a huge one. Ty Law. Damn, I forgot about that one. Jamie Collins. Vince Wilfork, Randy Moss, right? You got any? Ben Watson is another guy I had written down. Anybody else?
Jacoby Brissett. Logan Ryan.
Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, yeah, Malcolm Butler. I mean, it is amazing. It's amazing. It really
Jabal
is.
Sheard has done well with the Colts.
Yes.
He was with the Patriots. A lot of guys. And that's the thing. The players are commodities. On most teams, it's the kicker and the punter that is viewed as completely and totally fungible, and we can get rid of them and find somebody else. Bill Belichick's attitude toward everyone on the team, you're just a piece in the machine, and we will pull you out and put another one in, and that's that. There is no emotional attachment of any kind, and I think that's why he's the way he is with Tom Brady. There's always been a wall with Tom Brady because when the time comes to make that difficult decision, a decision that we assumed Bill Belichick would have had to have made a long time ago, but when that time comes, he wants to be able to make a dispassionate decision that is driven by one thing and one thing only, the best interest of the team. In other words, how are we going to win more games, with him or without him? Yeah. And we'll find out an answer to that within the next week. And, and we'll talk more about this in PFTOT as to the timing. But I think we'll know by next week at this time for sure whether or not he's staying.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.